Hey everyone, it's Carrie here. So we are rapidly coming to the end of the year, which is really scary because I do not know where this year has gone at all. But it's a time of year where you start thinking about what you want next year. And a big question people start thinking about is how much money they want to make. And for some people, they absolutely love this question. But for most of us, it's kind of something we actually dread and you just want to not think about it at all. Because if you've ever been in a situation where somebody said to you, how much money do you want to earn over the next 12 months? Sometimes it can be like, you get this panic inside and then you start thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know. And then you feel like you're plucking figures out of the air and you feel like you can't connect to any of the figures that you're coming up with. You don't really believe that you could actually make that kind of money. Well, if you have ever felt like this and you feel like you'd really love a bit of help to make sure that you get on track financially for the next 12 months, then I have got something really exciting in store for you right now. We are joined by money expert Sophie Bennett, who is the author of the brilliant book Money Bondage, and she is going to be sharing some amazing tips. So Sophie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, Carrie.
So obviously you're going to be sharing some great tips, things that people can do to get themselves on track and have an amazing year financially next year. But before we start talking about that, I would love to talk more about your story because I know you have an incredible one where you went from £60,000 in debt to, in 2007, having your first or making your first £1 million deal, which is just incredible. So how can you tell us a little bit about this and how that all happened?
Yeah, I didn't think I had much of a story to tell, and people kept saying to me, really? You've got to share this. So that's why I wrote the book. But I started off, ironically, trying to live my dream. Right from the outset, I've always been quite a driven person. And I wanted to be an Olympic rider. And I followed my dream. I won some wonderful scholarships. And at 32, I lost my sponsor, was broke, and had to give up. And it was absolutely devastating. And I finished up £60,000 in debt. So following my dream on its own just didn't work. And what I realised was that I needed the same strategies I'd applied to my sport. I needed to go out and learn equivalent strategies for making money because I had to get myself out of the mess. I was in a dreadful state. So I owned no property, I had credit card debt, and it just built up over the years. For a long time, I think I just fell into the common trap that so many of us fall into, which is I was earning a little bit more than I was, or rather spending a little bit more than I was earning each week, and it had been going on for a long time.
So how did you turn that around and go from being in that debt to being a millionaire?
I went and studied. I thought, hang on, there's got to be something that people that have got money, have made money, do consistently that they're doing that I'm not doing. So I'd learned that strategy of go and model the best you can find from sport. And I'd been lucky, I'd trained with some of the best people in the world. And I thought, right, let's go and find people or find information about people that have done the same with money and business. So what I did was I started on the classic route. I reached the bottom and then I went on a Tony Robbins seminar. I'm sure a lot of people will be familiar with Tony. And I came home all fired up and then got back to my flat and thought, now what? So I went and hit the bookshops. And where I started was I just bought some fantastic books. I bought Jim Rohn's 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness, one of the best books I've ever read. I picked up Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I bought hundreds. And I just poured over them until it started to sink in that I needed to take some action and the right sort of action. And over time, I bought some property. I started earning more than I was spending. That was the key shift, I think, was I just each week, and I broke it down into really small chunks. Each week, I knew what I had to spend to cover my costs. I knew what I had to earn, and I did whatever it took on a week by week basis to just make the gap bigger and bigger.
Wow.
It was very simple actually, but it took a bit of time.
Wow, that is an amazing story. So obviously you've written this book now, which is amazing, and in the book you share your steps that people can take to help them, so they can get into the position they want to be in financially. So what with a new year coming up, what steps can people start taking right now to really help them to get on track financially so that they can have the best year next year in terms of money?
Well, I think the first thing is stay inspired and stay motivated. And, your website, Carrie, the content you put out is fantastic. And make sure you look at that every day, because we all need a little something just to remind us to stay inspired. On a practical level, first of all, have a budget. And so that you can get to the point where you know what you have to do each month, each week, each day, so that you actually come out on top. Some days we'll all have a day when we spend a little bit more than we earn. But as long as you're aware of what that gap is, then the next day you can make up for it. You can either earn a little bit more or you can spend a little bit more. And the book really is, and it's not so much all about the practicalities. You've read the book. It's not a boring finance book. It's really about making money from the inside out. Because if you don't feel like you're worthy of it, or you have bad behaviours around money that you've just slipped into, or maybe even inherited from family and friends and peers, then it's very hard to get out of.
Yeah.
And whatever state you get into has its own momentum. Do you ever find that when you have a difficult day, it can be quite hard to break out of that?
Yes. And this is why those strategies come into place, or those mindset things.
Yeah, absolutely. Because until you can change your thinking, or that's about changing how you feel,
exactly,
it's very difficult to be effective when you're feeling bad.
Yeah.
So any strategy that you can put into place that can help you feel a little bit better, and you can change your state even for a moment, that starts to build some momentum.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I just do a little exercise with you, Carrie?
Yes.
Because this is an interesting one about money mindset, and I think it demonstrates quite well how we all work. Just for a moment, and the audience can play along, your ladies can play along with this and have a go themselves. Can you think of a way that you can guarantee that you could earn an extra, say, £50 a month?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How does that make you feel? Is it very just?
Easy.
Yeah, you could do that. It's very easy. Feel quite settled in your emotion. And what I want you to pay attention to, and everybody watching, is how these questions make you feel. Because the point of the exercise isn't the answers; it's how the questions make you feel. Okay. So the next question is this: I said to you, you have to earn an extra £500 a month. Does that, just pay attention to how you feel? Now let's put another zero on it and say an extra £5,000 a month. Okay. Now try £50,000 a month. How does that one make you feel?
It feels further away. It feels more out of reach.
Out of reach. And I asked this question to a lot of people because it was an exercise I went through myself about 10 years ago. And as the numbers get bigger, I used to get a more unsettled feeling, like little butterflies in the pit of my stomach. And I used to ignore that and pretend they didn't exist. And actually, those are really helpful signals, because they help to show you what you're ready for, what your next step is likely to be. And I know you do fantastic things around financial goals and business goals. And the interesting thing about goals, if you set them too far away, then it's very easy to give up, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And think, I'm getting further. You have a bad day and you think, oh no, I'm getting further away from it. When the trick is to set the goal close enough that you feel that you are stepping towards it, but not so far away that it encourages you to give up.
So I really like this exercise. I think it really does put into perspective in a really easy way the feelings that you have towards money and what you think is possible and isn't possible, what makes you feel comfortable and what makes you feel completely uncomfortable. So what can people then do in terms of like looking at the next 12 months to be able to change those feelings so that they can get to where they want to be?
Okay, the secret here for me, and a lot of people I've asked about this, has actually been setting up some momentum. So do that exercise, find the figure at which point you start to get a little bit uncomfortable. Not terrified, not the figure that makes you really scared, and not one that makes you really comfortable that you don't actually react to. But find out, do the exercise yourself on a piece of paper and look at the figure, the one that makes you just start to feel a little bit differently about the number. And that's a great one to start. The trick is start it. You'll find it quite easy to get strategies to get to that number. And the reason I say you'll find it easy is because if you weren't going to find it relatively easy, you wouldn't feel that comfortable about it. It would be one of those numbers that would be too far away. So pick your number and then make a decision about when you want to move up. Now, you don't need to always add a zero, but you might want to add 100. If your figure is an extra £1,000 a month, if you say your next figure will be £1,200 a month, once you get to the extra 1,000, the extra 200 is not so much. So my tip for a fantastic 2014 is to find out where that comfort level is for you now, and then keep the momentum going. So every time you reach it, allow yourself to settle, take a breath, reward yourself, do something nice so that you get the chance to actually enjoy your achievement. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget the achievements go whizzing past and I don't actually congratulate myself for them, and I keep the pressure up. So give yourself a little chance to reward having reached that number, and then keep the momentum up and do the same exercise again. That's the trick, is to keep doing the exercise again and keep recalibrating where your oh heck number is, and just keep shifting it.
I think that's good, because I think that it also helps people to constantly keep bringing money back into their consciousness so that they are thinking about it. Because I think money is one of those things where a lot of people bury their head in the sand about it, and they put it off and they put it off. Then months and months and months go by, and it kind of gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And when you're running a business, money and cash flow is so important. So I think your exercise will really help people to constantly stay aware of where they're at financially and where they want to be financially, and constantly feeling good, that it's possible, like they can get there. So I feel like that's a really powerful exercise to try.
Yeah, there's so much emotion around money, isn't there? It's a very emotive subject, and I think particularly us ladies have a bit of an inclination sometimes to feel a little bit guilty when we do well. And that's why if you calibrate your number and reward yourself when you reach it, and don't kick yourself too hard if you don't reach it on the exact day when you want to, keep finding inspiration, keep looking, join a group, do something so you don't feel alone as well to getting it, and just keep challenging yourself, but do remember to reward yourself as well. That's a big tip.
Can I ask
probably my biggest.
Can I ask you a question for something you just said? You just said that if you don't reach the goal, don't be hard on yourself. But have you ever been in a situation yourself where you've set yourself a financial goal and you haven't reached it? Because I think that this happens to some people, and then it puts them off wanting to set financial goals, because they just get this disheartened feeling when they're like, well, there's no point in setting this goal because I'm not going to reach it anyway. So has it ever happened to you, and what would your advice be to somebody, or if somebody does set a financial goal and they don't reach it, what can they do to kind of stay positive about it or to stay on track?
It's definitely happened to me, and I do some one-to-one consulting as well, and it happens to people I work with too. And the best idea I can suggest is to try and remove yourself from any blame for that, and take a slightly disassociated look at why that hasn't happened. Not in a blame way, just in what could I have done differently. That's a great thing. Make a list of what could I have done differently. Draw a line under the point that you've made that decision to stop beating yourself up, and say, right, tomorrow and onwards, I'm going to learn from having not reached the goal, and this is what I can do differently. Because even if you haven't reached the financial goal, that in itself gives you a place to put a line under things so you can move on and make progress. It's so much of this is about momentum.
Yeah.
It's about not doing the same thing that's not working over and over again.
Oh, Sophie, I've absolutely loved it. It's been amazing talking to you, but I think this is such an important topic, so thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about Sophie and her amazing book, then I put all the details over on the blog, so definitely go and check it out. But I would also love to hear from you on this topic, because it is such an important topic. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody has asked you what you want to make and you've freaked out and panicked and been like, oh, I don't know, and felt like you're plucking figures out the air? Or have you been in a situation where you've been in a bad situation financially and then you've turned it around? What things really, really helped you? Head over to the blog and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.